Hey guys, it's me, Crystal from ArmyWife101.com. So I'm back here today talking about depression and anxiety in the military spouse community. And you guys have no clue how many inboxes and personal emails I get from spouses dealing with this. And I don't mind those because I've put it out there and made it very public that I've dealt with anxiety and depression really bad during my husband's first deployment. Pretty much during every deployment, but the first was really bad, physically manifested, it was messed up. And the thing about it is, I don't know how many of you know this, the military spouse community, that is one of the biggest problems, is spouses suffering from depression and anxiety. And I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to talk about the physical stuff because I don't know. There are some people who mentally, have some chemical imbalances and things be going wrong. But I think a lot of the depression can also come from the fact that there's a lot of pressure on military spouses to be strong. You're not supposed to break. You're supposed to be all hooah, especially when they're deployed. You're not supposed to consider things like divorce or separation. You're not supposed to have those feelings because how dare you have those feelings when your spouse is deployed? And I think what happens is the spouse herself begins to feel so guilty and how could she do this, when her husband is, serving overseas fighting for our country. The truth is, outside of military spouse world, if that's what you want to call it, we're human beings. And I think that, I believe the military has done a better job of addressing these issues, but it's sort of taboo. And I've said this before that when I was suffering from it, just to be honest with you, I could have opened a pharmaceutical store, seriously, because I had every kind of depression medication there was, Celexa or Wellbutrin, Zoloft. Xanax was handed to me like candy. Klonopin, which I take now occasionally. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. I don't even remember. But my point was, I had so many of them, I never took them. And I felt like they were just given out. You would see spouses all the time there to pick up that kind of medication. And I think those are things that need to be addressed. I think people need to be made more aware of other options other than just being medicated, because the reality is that so many of us are home with kids. I'm a paranoid person already, so you throwing me on some medication and me being the Google queen, I Google it and I see people who talked about being rushed to the hospital because they're having breathing problems. In my mind, I'm going to be well, I don't want to take that. My husband's deployed and I have kids I have to watch. Last thing I need them to see me laid out on the floor. However, beyond that, I think we as a military spouse community, and I'm not all for the, we got to work together and, military spouse power, because really, people go through their own battles and you probably won't even know. That being said, I think we need to work together in the sense of when you hear a spouse that's going through these things, and not to say everybody becomes judgmental, but let's not lie. A lot of y'all are judgmental. That we need to be more compassionate to it. Nobody wants to hear be strong. When you're feeling like your life is just over and you don't even know why your life is just over, it just is. You don't want to get up out of bed. I've stayed in my room for 3 or 4 days at a clip and never come out, and it's just what it is. You can't explain depression and anxiety. You can't explain somebody like me who hides behind her business and what I do at home. But the reality is ever since my big SUV flipped over a guardrail in 95 and we almost died, it's the reason why I tend to want to hide in the house, and I really don't like going a lot of places. You can't explain the times that, in my case twice, when I had a knock at the door after a certain time of day, and I didn't have any friends hardly, so nobody should have been coming to my door, and I thought it was somebody coming to tell me that my husband was dead, or the time that my heart literally stopped because I lived on the corner at Hunter Army Airfield, and it was a dead end to the right and you can only make a left, and this what do you call, a government-like car stops in front of my house for like more than the time it would take for you to stop at a stop sign when there's hardly no traffic. Those type of events can mess with people's heads. Some people could just let it go and some people can't. Some people just, they have a hard time. They have 2 and 3 kids and it just gets the best of you. Everybody's not a super mom. And I think a lot of times the depression and the anxiety comes in from other people feeling like they have to be that way. They have to be a super mom. They have to be doing this and doing that. And one of my suggestions, and I'm no doctor, this was just what I did. Sometimes I just let myself be depressed. I mean, like, why the hell not? Of course, if it got to the point where I felt like I was going to do something awful, that's different. But sometimes, why can't you just lay in bed and be miserable? You don't have to get up and go anywhere. Don't do it. The other suggestion I have, and people may not agree with this, I called the suicide hotline to talk. I wasn't ever going to commit suicide, but I knew that they were open to talk to. It was a 24-hour line. Like, so who else could I call? I could call them, and they didn't know me and they weren't judgmental. So I think that there needs to be made a greater awareness to this, because I think wives are going to keep getting prescribed medication. And it's a running joke in the military, atmosphere that, all these wives, they're on prescription drugs. And, I don't really, I made a joke out of it for myself because, that was how I dealt with it. But the true state of mind is that that makes no sense. But the truth of the matter is that it needs to be addressed and it need not be made fun of. Not cool. So for those who are emailing me with your, the depression and the anxiety, I understand. Like, you're so not alone. My doors are open. I think we need to just band together, embrace your fellow male spouses, and help people out. Don't make them feel like they have to do this or they have to do that. Just sometimes listening to people and not imparting your opinions on them means a world. Means a lot. So that being said, I'm at 7 minutes. I try not to do videos this long. Visit me at armywife101.com. Thanks. Bye.